Good day, everyone. I am Roslyn Dalaga, and I will be your next reporter for today's discussion. This time, gear up yourselves because we will now move on to one of the great Persian literature entitled Sohrab and Rustum. In the previous report of Mr. Luares, Firdausi is the author of Shahnameh, or the Book of King, the national epic of Iran. One of the chief characters of the epic is Rustum. This story, Sohrab and Rustum, was retold by Sir Matthew Arnold in English verse. This old tale is drawn from the Shahnameh Book of Kings, the national epic of Iran in which written by Firdausi. Among the chief characters in the epic is Rustum, whose bravery is matched only by that of his equally courageous son, Sohrab. This poignant story of a son who sought his father tirelessly only to be killed by the latter in battlefield captured the imagination of the great English poet Matthew Arnold, who retold the story in English verse. We have now Firdausi, a Persian poet and the author of the Shahnameh, the Book of Kings, the great Persian epic. His original name was Abul Qasim Mansur, and we also have in the second picture Sir Matthew Arnold, an English poet who retold the story of Sohrab and Rustum in English verse. Next slide, let us come up now with the characters of the story. We have the main characters, we have Sohrab and Rustum. Sohrab is the champion of the Tartar army, while Rustum is the Persian chieftain and the champion of the Persian army. We also have the other characters. We have Persian Wisa, the commander of the Tartar army, Firud, the leader of the Persians, Gudors, a Persian chieftain, and Zal. We also have Zal. So he is the father of Rustum and at the same time Sohrab's grandfather. And we also have Tamini, who is the king's daughter and at the same time the mother of Sohrab. Okay, now let's come up with the setting of the story. We have in the Sistan, Iran, also known as Persia. We have on the banks of the Oxus River, in the kingdom of Simangan, in Turan, and in the province of Sistan. Let's come up now with the plot or the summary of the story. So the story started when Rustum is patrolling in the border of Iran when his horse is stolen. He goes to enemy's territory in Turan in search of his horse. The local ruler receives him generously and promises to find the horse. He invites Rustum to stay for the night and Rustum accepts it. And when the night came, he went through his room. The Princess Tameni secretly joins him and reveals that she is in love with him and that she desires a child from him. They spend the night in loving embrace. Rustum gives her an onyx stone in which she gets from his arm and tells her that if a child is a daughter, she should fasten it in the girl's hair, and if it's a boy, she should put the bracelet on his arm. The next morning, Rustum's horse is found, and he returns to Iran. A son is born and named Sohrab. When he becomes older, he is anxious to be reunited with his father. He goes to Iran with an army, hoping to see his father and to place him on the throne of Iran. In this story, we witness that Sohrab cried and said to his mother, "Mother, tell me where my father is, that I may go to him and fight by his side." In this story, Sohrab was really eager to conquer all the kings of Persia, just in search for his father, thinking that if he will be recognized as great, his father will recognize him as well. The Persian generals conceal Sohrab's identity from Rustum. They fight several times. When they meet, Sohrab asks Rustum to reveal his identity, in which Rustum refuses, according to the rules of chivalry. Rustum and Sohrab meet in the battlefield. Sohrab asked his opponent to reveal his identity, but Rustum refuses. Rustum also mistrusts the young warrior, thinking that if Sohrab will be able to know his name, it is her way or his way of boosting in the coming of his fellow. In the first fight, the young Sohrab throws Rustum down, but feeling of compassion overcomes him. In the next combat, Rustum throws Sohrab down. Feeling that the young warrior might stand up, he immediately thrusts Sohrab's side. In this time of story, in the fight between Rustum and Sohrab, it was really intense because two great warriors are fighting together. This was also the time when Rustum had the chance to immediately thrust his dagger to his opponent Sohrab. Sohrab this time was already lying in the ground. Then Sohrab rose up his arm and cried, "Behold this onyx given by Rustum to my mother, that she might bind it on her babe." The dying Sohrab says that his father Rustum will avenge him, even if he becomes a fish in the sea or becoming the night disappears in darkness. This is how Rustum learns the identity of his son. During this time, Rustum also wanted to spare his own life after he had learned that his opponent was his son. But Sohrab, as a son, prevented him. Rustum was full of regrets and guilt. He really cried beside his son. The story was very tragic and sad. Okay, so let us come up now with the conflict of the story. The poem is an account of Sohrab's search for his father, who disappeared years earlier. A warrior for the Tartars, Sohrab, engages in the battle with Persian forces, not realizing that Rustum, the Persian chieftain, is his father. Sohrab challenges the older man in single combat. And now, let us come up now with the theme of the story. So one of the main themes of Sohrab and Rustum is the danger that can come from chasing one's personal vainglory too strongly. Sohrab does not realize that Rustum is his father when they fight, nor does Rustum know that Sohrab is his son. Yet because both of them feel the need to defend their glory, they engages in mortal combat, which ends up in Sohrab's death. This time, let us have now the tone and mood of the story. We can say that the tone of the story is in ironic tone, because the story, Sohrab tries his best to conquer all the kings of Persia just to be reunited again to his father. But unfortunately, it turns out that the person with whom he wanted and searched throughout his life is ironically the one who will kill him in the battlefield. The next one, in the mood of story. The mood of the story is in tragic and depressed mood because Sohrab at the end of the story died and Rustum was in full guilt and regret. In the story, we will learn the moral lesson not to take pride too much. Rustum has so much pride in himself that he forgets about humility. If he had humbled himself when Sohrab asked if he is Rustum, hence he might not kill his son. This story we can reflect also with the moral lesson. With pride there are many curses, but with humility there comes many blessings. There is nothing bad in pride, it's just that pride is sometimes be good, which represents dignity and self-respect, or bad, in which represents superiority, that tricks the cohesion and arrogance. Okay, so that ends my report in the literary analysis of one of the Persian literature, Sohrab and Rustum. I am Rosalinda Loga, and I will end my report with a saying, pride builds walls that kills all kinds of relationship. Thank you, and once again, good morning.